Oh, we both whispered it. Did you whisper it? I felt like you whispered it too.
I did whisper it. It was a little softer
at the beginning of this chapter.
Yeah, just a nice little lulling waves out there in the ocean. Nothing crazy, nothing too big.
I mean, we're talking about waves, we're talking about lulls, we're talking about noises, because obviously this is a pirate podcast. No, it's a podcast about pirates. It's a podcast about a manga about pirates who are on the ocean, which is where we are. Because this is the Grand Line Tourist podcast, a chapter by chapter examining or re-examining, depending on where you are in your life in correlation to the One Piece manga of Ichiro Oda's masterpiece, One Piece.
Ooh.
It's getting more and more elaborate because I'm getting more comfortable, so I'm just adding more words.
Yeah. No, and I feel like, like Masterpiece got thrown in there. I think that's like the big one that's kind of, whenever you do it, that was the one that kind of sits in there. We'll see later on how many more adjectives and adverbs we can successfully throw in without having to take a breath.
I didn't introduce myself. I just took a big gulp of coffee there. I'm Eric. You're obviously Eric Sivu. Your tour guide. I was thinking of the word, but that's what I am. I am the tour guide.
Yeah, that's what you are. Don't be ashamed of it. That's all
but
good, man.
Who are you, stranger voice on the other end of the interwebs?
Over here, without coffee, I'm going. Oh, actually, I had some coffee earlier. It was decaf though, so without caffeine. Oh, with a small amount of caffeine. Decaf coffee does have a little bit of caffeine. For all the people out there that don't know that,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, just a little bit. I think just a little bit. It's not. It's like your chocolate, how that has a little bit of caffeine in it too. Did you know that?
Oh, I didn't know that either.
So you've just been absorbing all these different sources of caffeine, unaware, but now you know. The more you know. But that's not what I usually do, because I am someone who knows nothing. I am the tourist of this podcast, Jacob Jarecki, on the East Blue, heading towards the Grand Line for the very first time. I'm excited to be here. And you know what? I've heard from down over there by the docks that we got some letters at port, and I'm just gonna go ahead and read them out and share what's going on in our little community over here. So we've gotten basically a couple of comments on the YouTube. Shout out to our Grand Line Tourist YouTube. I've been diligently uploading about 2 of our episodes a day until we catch up. So right now it looks like it's just hopping. You're just like, oh my gosh, whoever the Grand Line Tourist is, they're doing 2 episodes a day of this thing.
Yep.
Yeah, if that's you, if you're listening to this on the YouTube, at some point that won't be the case, and you'll have to wait about a week.
Yep.
But that said, we got some comments. We got actually 3 comments from the same person. So we got a shout out to Frange FJ, who he's written in as Jay before. So his first comment here is, "You already know who it is, Jay the Gay?" No, I don't think that's right. Never mind. Love you guys. Looking forward to future episodes. Also definitely going to send a panel battle contestant into the ring one of these weeks. Haha. And we definitely want to see that panel battle. So, send it in, Jay. We are waiting. We are ready to, bow down to the superior choice that you have made for whatever chapter you choose to send in.
Right. Our panels always get so lonely when it's just, our panels versus our panels. Like,
so sad.
So it'd be nice to have another panel. Throw some
He's
throw
the
some
loneliest number in the panel battle.
Nice.
Okay. And he also wrote in, just like I can tell, he's been going through and checking out some of the episodes on YouTube, mentioning that we got a promising cast. He hopes he can get to know my middle name at some point. I hope that remains a secret and I can successfully do my taxes and, not have them be audited by the IRS or someone else.
Only Jacob's parents, brother, God, and the IRS know his middle name.
Yes, the Lord our Savior, IRS. And then he commented that was a comment on episode 1. And on episode 2, he commented, "It's still a mystery, ... Oh, you know what? This actually makes a lot of sense. I think that's in reference to my middle name. We must have, it's kind of funny to read a comment and kind of figure out what it means later. I was like, oh, it must have been a mystery mentioned in episode 2. I think he's referencing that my middle name was not dropped in episode 2.
Oh, wow.
I'm worried about if we ever do drop it, there's going to be a comment on that episode. It's just going to say the name. I'll be like, uh-oh, he found it. But hopefully not. So, no, thanks for writing in. I think Jay's from Germany, if I recall, an international listener. So, yeah, very cool. Very nice to hear from you. And with that, I think, that wraps up our letters at port. Nice and easy there. Got a YouTube. Check it out, everybody. And we're off to Chapter 58. And what is the title of Chapter 58, Eric?
Chapter 58, The Crap Geezer.
Oh, look at that.
It's actually a term of endearment, don't you think?
Definitely. Yeah, that's maybe. Right. Yeah, it's a begrudging term of endearment. Yeah. Begrudging term of endearment. The crap user.
This is that love-hate relationship people talk about. We open on a flashback Sanji working out how long he can kind of survive with eating with the food he has left, because he's still stranded on the rock. So young Sanji figures out if he eats around one-ish meals, like less than one-ish meals a day with the food he has, he can last around 20 days. And I'm glad Oda did this, he has plenty of drinking water because there's little crevices all on that rock there that collects rainwater that he can actually drink. So he has the water, it's just the food. Food is the issue.
Yeah, no, I've been, in my mind, I've been calling this little tiny Sanji Survivalist Sanji. You know, he's there on the island surviving. He's, dividing up his rations. Very impressive for a young little man there.
Yeah. And he figures in 20 days he's bound to find one ship, and if he finds one, he still blames Zeff for a lot of things. So he's like, I'm not even gonna tell Zeff when I see a ship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The world it's not like all ocean in this world.
Right. Also, at the same time, he's a spiteful little dude. I wonder if his life would have been different if he would have just told Zeff about the ship. Actually, this ties into the itinerary. 5 days into it, he finds a ship on a rainy day. It's too rainy, and he can't seem to get the attention of the ship because of it's rainy. He can't start a fire or anything to get the attention of the ship. But I wonder if things would have changed if he would have told Zeff here that there's this ship. Anyways,
that's interesting. Yeah,
we keep going. Around day 25, he's out of food.
Day 25.
Right, day 25 on this rock, he is out of food. All he has left is moldy bread. And then around day 30, he gets desperate enough to be like, "Hey, Zeff took a ton of food. I'm gonna go fight him. Like I'm gonna kill him to take whatever food it is." And he's ready to fight. He goes and he discovers that the big bag of food that Zeff had for himself, what was in it, Jacob?
Worthless. It was worthless. It was full of, worthwhile in maybe the berries part of the world, but not berries you can eat. We're just talking lots of treasure, lots of useless treasure.
Yeah, it reminds you, or it's just a giant signal of like money is a perception of like civilization, essentially.
Nothing like food to make you think that, right?
Yeah. But this is also when Sanji finds out. So if Zeff had no food in that bag, what is he be eating? And this is where Sanji finds out that Zeff doesn't have his right leg anymore. Is that the leg he cut off?
Dun dun. That's a good question. I want to say I think you got it. I think it's got to be the right leg.
Yeah.
I'll as you keep going, I will take a look at the picture.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. It's not.
It's right leg. That right foot is gone.
Yeah, that's when Sanji finds out that Zeff took out his right leg to eat it. So all of the food, really, he just gave to Sanji, and which is important later on. And when Sanji's like, "Why would you do such a crazy thing like that?" Splitting the food obviously would have been bad, but we could have just done that instead of you losing your leg, because Zeff can't be a pirate anymore, right? Because now he's out of his leg. Zeff says, "Well, because you and I have the same dream."
Yes.
Right? I used to dream of seeing the All Blue, and Zeff says he would have done that with the pirate crew. They're going to go back, but he knows it's there. The year that he's been in sea, he knows it's there, but he can't go back now because that pirate crew one is gone. And then also at the same time, he doesn't have a leg anymore. That's not his dream. That's Sanji's dream. And I think we'll talk about what that means later on. So at that moment, Zeff is like, if we ever make it out of this place, the only thing I've ever wanted was the restaurant just right smack dab in the middle of the ocean. Meaning that they probably have starved before. This must have been an issue for pirates of the day, like just back in the day, right? Like starving for sure, being lost and starving.
It's like what's the name of the? Oh, it's like the Coast Guard, but they carry sandwiches around and just like throw them at ships and people on rocks,
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what it is.
He wants to create that service for the world.
He does. So Zeff wants to create, like he says, if we ever make it out, I'm going to open a restaurant in the middle of the ocean. To which Sanji's like, well, I'm going to help you do that. Obviously, because now Sanji feels indebted to him in some sort of capacity. It makes sense. Sanji's life for his leg, it's a little sad. They do not get saved until day 85.
85.
Which is crazy town. That's about 4 months. 4 months and some change.
Wait, 3 months.
3 months and some change.
120 before. You were close.
I was close. I was getting there. I divided it by 4 for no reason.
It was an off by one error. Off by one errors happen all the time. If you said 5 days, I mean, I would have been like confused. But you did pretty good.
And this is the same ship that he saw on day 5, which is a little
maritime law, not math.
Yeah, exactly. And then we jump back to the present, where Sanji declares that he is going to protect the ship because of Zeff's sacrifice. And Zeff sacrificed the future of his pirate future, essentially for a very worthless chore boy at the time. And this is his debt to Zeff.
Yeah, he's got a debt. He's got to pay it back. Got to pay it back to that crap geezer that he hates, yada yada.
Yeah.
But no, and before we dive in, yes,
that's it.
Cover story. We have Buggy's crew after the battle, part 17. Intense 12-hour battle. Oh my goodness. I really like these. These are amazing, Eric. Like I feel like they're gonna soon become I'm gonna be like, I gotta read 20 pages of Luffy's story to get to this intense
cover stories?
Buggy's adventure. Yeah, forget it. I'm sure that's the only reason this manga has made it so far as it has, is because of these wonderful cover stories. Which, just to tell everyone what we're looking at, it's Mohi and Kabaji, right? If I got the names. And the even better element is Richie. He's dreaming in the background of being captain. and his mast is like a little lion head, just like himself. Oh, it's just beautiful.
It's so good. And I love how beat up these two are. Like,
they're still going. 12-hour battle.
No one's even paying attention. You see, everybody's asleep. Like, no one's paying attention to this fight anymore.
No one cares. They're like, okay, we'll wake up later and hopefully we'll have a captain.
Yeah, one of them will still be awake. One's gonna be less bloody than the other one. It kind of reminds me of like a Rocky Balboa thing, where their faces all like beat up and swollen and stuff. It's great.
Oh yeah, Adrian.
Richie.
Oh, you know what? Okay, and I'm just gonna quickly whip out the tinfoil hat crinkle. It's going on the head. I am severely rooting for Richie to become, the new captain.
What?
Like, he's got the dream. All these other people are pummeling each other and beating themselves up. So I just feel like it's something Oda would do. Make Richie ultimate captain. I mean, I think this would be the first time we've really had an animal. Oh no, we had a talking dog. Not quite talking, but like a dog that had a lot to do with like the plot and what's going on. So Richie is captain.
Yeah. I mean, there's the same arc. We had.
So
what was the name of that
remember
dog?
The dog's name. Oh no.
Oh man, I feel bad.
Oh,
this is terrible. People are gonna be so mad at us.
Chow Chow. Oh yes.
Chow Chow. There we go.
Oh man, okay. This is an amazing. I just another little tinfoil hat off to Oda here. I only was able to get it because I was thinking about, did they run a pet food store? Or they ran a store. Yeah, and so when I thought of what do you call pet food, and I thought like Chow, and then Chow Chow immediately came to my mind. So named little dog there. Without further ado, let's move on from our cover story and get on to what is happening in chapter 58 and what do we think about
it. Chapter 58. I have to say we gotta talk about, since we just did a tinfoil time here. Your tinfoil from the last chapter was wrong.
No, what was my tinfoil from last chapter? Oh, it was. Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay, if I can recall, I was thinking that I had it a lot more gross. I thought Sanji was gonna eat Zeff's leg.
But no,
and that's how he was gonna live. No, this is actually the more like selfless thing for Zeff to do, right? Yeah, like he said, you know what? I'm not gonna take any food at all to Sanji, and then he's just, obviously he'd like to survive, and he's got, this is kind of the desperate plan to stick around a bit longer, right? Eat my own foot. So yeah, no, my tinfoil hat prediction. Quite wrong.
Well, that one was quite wrong, but only like slightly. I mean, you already knew somebody was going to eat this foot that was coming off the last chapter.
I mean, if you knew somebody was going to eat the foot and there's only 2 people and I got it wrong, that's as bad as you can get. It's like exactly the opposite of what was going to happen.
Yeah. So I'm going to just point out real quick, because we're talking about how he doesn't have a leg anymore and how he ate it.
Yeah.
The anime, for whatever reason, doesn't say that's how he lost his foot.
Whoa, they just don't show it? Like, they don't even have this sequence?
They say that he loses his foot saving Sanji out of the ocean.
Wow. It must have been something like cannibalism, even self-cannibalism is like not allowed in the culture or on TV or something.
Yeah, it was weird.
Dang.
So that's the one thing that's different. So remember when I started this journey and around this time I didn't read at all. So I didn't know this happened.
Oh, wow.
In my head, he essentially lost his foot the same way, and we'll talk about this too. The same way Shanks lost his arm, right? Saving Sanji.
Yeah.
But this is so much, like you said, selfless, and it kind of leads to the big theme of this whole backstory. And the guilt, which explains where Sanji is, which is that he gave all the food to a young Sanji and ate his own leg, right?
Yeah.
Because if they would have divided it between themselves, then they wouldn't have been able to stay this long, probably.
No, and just interesting thing for you, when you saw day 85, were you thinking, like, this is insane? How would people live this long? Like, off of food, you know? And I thought the same thing. And I was like, no way. Like, I thought this was another example of, like, just how in the fights in One Piece, people get beat up a lot in a way that seems humanly impossible to survive. I thought, oh, well,
this is cartoon logic.
These are One Piece characters, right? They're going to obviously be able to survive far longer than, like, me or you could survive without food. But quick Googling, estimates range from, like, 43 to 70 days for how long you can survive without food.
And they technically only lasted without food for about like 60 days.
Yeah, no, even if it was 85, that's pretty close to that top end. I would have been like, oh yeah, that just seems like, the extreme range, someone could survive that long. No, so like I was impressed with how accurate it was, and then also that means that like it makes a lot of sense for even Zeff to be able to survive that long and just eat a little bit of his foot to make it last a little bit. So I like that, and I also I learned something. This is like the more you know. I can't believe it though. That's so long. Like if I go without food for one day, I'm upset, Eric. I'm not a fun person to be around.
It's nuts because it is one of those things where you will kill people. Like right? The what's that old? Is that old? But like the Dahmer party. What were they? The people.
Oh yeah, the Donner. I think this is the Donner party. The people that went through the past while trying to get there are prairie folk trying to get from east to the west, get gold rush, all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they got stuck somewhere, and then I think they did wind up in the winter in a mountain pass, eating each other. Yeah,
and it's crazy because it would lead you to that way. I mean, obviously, this is probably the best version of it. It's self-cannibalism as opposed to Zeff eating Sanji.
Yeah, no, I feel like, self-cannibalism is pretty brutal. It's a tough way to do it.
Yeah, so I guess the big theme I want to talk about too, because we're already still on here. Obviously, we can only really talk about this backstory. This idea of passing on one's dream, right? And then One Piece does this where it's like, somehow losing a limb equals like passing on a dream or inspiring the next generation. Like this kind of feels like the same thing, but it kind of feels like that because it does feel like Zeff essentially like he's given up his retirement to make sure that Sanji gets his streak of fighting the All Blue. Like, well, how did you feel about that? Did you like where that is or where this is?
No, it's funny. When I originally read it, it was incredibly impactful. So specifically, this was when I read the part that says basically, why would you save me? Because we have the same dream. It might be worded a little bit different, but that's the essence of that statement, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't actually think so much about the fact that the Zeff was giving up his dream and passing it on. I just kind of noted I really connected to this fact that they had the same dream. Like that, and this just reminds me of, like, in the real world, if there's anybody that just happens to have the same hobby or the same niche interest that you do, you really want to help them. You know what I mean? Like, it can even go the other way. It doesn't necessarily have to be older to younger, but I think a lot of times it does because you'll have a little more experience in that niche subject or the hobby. But you just really want to connect with people that technically have the same dream. Like, a little tidbit from my life, I just randomly met some kid in the neighborhood who was interested in learning guitar, and as soon as I heard that, I was like, when do you want to meet up so I can teach you some chords that you don't know? Like, it's just instantly you want to help someone who has this dream of being able to make music, and so I really connected with that line. It was a subtle one. I thought this chapter was not going to have anything that kind of gut punched me because I was like, this is kind of intense. This is more like we're eating our feet to survive sort of thing. Like, no, that because we share the same dream really got me. I don't know if it hit you in a similar way.
Yeah, I definitely took it as kind of like, it reminds me of, I definitely got the more feel of like old pirate retiring for the younger generation. Like that's what I definitely felt like, because essentially it is what it is, right? One is like Zeff said, the crew I was gonna go to the ocean with, go to the Grand Line with again to find All Blue, it's gone. Like along with the Orbit, like along with that dumb passenger ship, the Orbit, like both of those things are gone. My leg is gone, and he decided, like, once I cut off this leg, one, I have a higher chance of dying now because of infection and everything, right? And then also, and I only have, from the kneecap down to eat. And he gave it all to Sanji in hopes that Sanji finds a boat, right? Like he's gonna make it to find All Blue, because Zeff knows in his heart that it does exist, and I really connected to that part of it. It reminds me of parents, parents who like sacrifice a lot so their kid can be the thing, so their kids can chase a specific dream. And I also like in more movie tropey stuff, like athletes, like if you watch something like Friday Night Lights or something sports related where they heavily put their own aspirations on their kids, it kind of feels similar, but obviously that's a little bit more dark and sinister because that's a little more selfish. This is more like a selfless thing where it's I'm giving you the opportunity to do that.
I like that.
And then now I have a question for you. Are dreams are a person's dream, like in this case, is kind of like Zeff passing on his dream, but they shared this dream. Can you consider dreams like legacy? Like in a weird way, like this is my legacy. Like it's you seeing All Blue is the legacy that you and I have built together because I've literally given you my foot to make that happen.
No, it's funny. It's like I think it is, and I think what you're saying is true. That if you had a dream and like it's. I want to say it's not necessarily the case that Zeff's dream is like not going to pan out, that like he's even shifting his dream. I just think maybe as you get older, like achieving the dream becomes a little less important. It's like Zeff was trying to, right? He was on the Grand Line. He was interested in this All Blue. And he was saying that he liked spending time with his crew, even though a lot of his crew didn't even believe in the All Blue, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and he gave it a shot. He gave it a go. I think for Zeff, that's almost like enough. Like that almost has become the new dream, right? Just doing that, being searching for the All Blue with a crew that he enjoys spending time with. That was the dream. And so, it's like a little bit of a passing on, and then like, giving it to Sanji can kind of be like that legacy. But I don't think it's so much in a way where like Zeff is like, oh, if I didn't have Sanji to pass it on to, I'd feel like my life was meaningless. It's more of like a feeling of things have shifted. I see someone that I connect with that also, maybe is going to get a little farther than I did. Mm-hmm. It's just natural and makes sense to have this passing on and this progression.
Yeah, dude, I also think it's that feeling of, it reminds me, I keep going back to sports because I feel like that's just the easiest thing to kind of relate to. But it feels like how, at a certain point, you just know, like an older player knows they have to retire. Right? Yeah. And then also, like,
Tom Brady never retires. Just kidding.
Except for that guy. That guy's a robot, apparently. But, like, okay, let's just take, even for myself, like, I loved playing volleyball growing up. I still love playing volleyball, right? And for a long time in high school, I was like, this is something I want to do into college and all that stuff. There's a bunch of different limiting reasons, but, like, outside of talent, the other limiting reason now, like, if I wanted to play, like, play in the U.S. Olympic team, like, I'm just too old now. Like, the time and the resources aren't there. Which is kind of like where Zeff is at this point. We're just like, we went to the Grand Line. We were there for a year. We had to come back and recoup everything, But now, that opportunity is kind of done. Right? Like, maybe Zeff's at a point in his life where, for one, he doesn't have a leg anymore. But I think he also knew, like what you were saying, in his head, like, I just don't have it in me to build that again and go back to the Grand Line. Right? Like,
no, it's strange. Like, I think my mind latches onto this idea of the dream is shifting for Zeff. Like, like the All Blue would be amazing, but it's going to mean more to Sanji at this point in his life than it would to Zeff, considering all the adventures that he's had. But that's interesting.
It is kind of like this patching of the torch. It is something that I know, like, a lot of we're bringing up age because I do think age is a big factor of it. I think a lot of it is like, you see the sacrifices of parents, what they like, the sacrifices of their dreams for their kids, for a certain extent, right? Like, you can't always you can't be the man on a touring cover, like Bon Jovi cover band, for the whole your whole life while you have kids. Eventually you're gonna have to make some sacrifices for your kids, because you just can't keep touring. So it is one of those things.
And I think you mentioned it a little bit to bring it back to One Piece.
Yeah.
We also have this connection between Luffy and Shanks, which is a very similar sort of thing. That like it actually this chapter kind of brings that into relief. Like you can really see that that's maybe what Shanks was doing back in the day when he kind of passes on his hat and helps helps Luffy out. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
and I think the reason you brought it up is because you mentioned Shanks also loses a limb.
Yeah, because I think there is just staying on this topic for a bit, right? Like in this theming, both Zeff and Shanks have given these two young people something specific, which is like an opportunity to chase their dream. But this makes Luffy and Sanji two sides of the same coin. And I say that because both of them have completely different interpretations of what this gift is and how to use this gift, which is kind of a cool thought.
No, definitely.
Yeah. Do you have anything else?
Let's see. I think the one thing that I just wanted to chat about really quick was I do have a little bit of an OCD habit for not wasting food. So I really related to this chapter of like, I'm going to divide this food up and use it all. Like, I'm just curious if you ever had that sort of habit. Like, I'll be the person that like, if I buy a loaf of bread and I don't eat it all, I'll freeze it because I know that like that loaf of bread will be better if I like it'll taste really fresh if I thaw it out like in a couple of days and finish it off.
Really?
As opposed to
freeze it?
This is anyone who listens to this that knows me will be annoyed that I'm bringing this up because I bring it up so much. But you can freeze any baked good and they basically stay as fresh as the day you froze them. So if you bake cookies and they're delicious first day and you're worried like, well, I got to eat all these or they're going to taste, worse in 3 days, freeze them all. And then take them out one by one as you want to eat them, and they will be just as good. The annoying thing about this is then you just wind up with a lot of stuff in your freezer, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have like 17 different cookies from like 20 different times when I bake things. It can be a problem, but it's also, if you use it well, it doesn't have to be a problem. Don't be OCD about it like me. But yeah, no, I just wanted, I was really thinking about food and like saving it, and I think Sanji even thinks back to that moment when the chefs in the kitchen were like eating the scraps off people's plates.
Yeah.
I've gotten more and more likely to be the person that does that. If I'm eating out with people and like I see like I've eaten most of my meal and I see people like there's some delicious French fries they're just not gonna eat. I have trouble not grabbing those French fries and like enjoying them. So I'm like, these are so darn good.
Same way with that with leftovers. I know that.
Yeah.
Like certain folks in my family, they're really bad about their leftovers. They just kind of leave it in the fridge, and I'm always like, if I see it there for 2 days after the time I know they went out, I'm just gonna eat it because I'm like, you guys aren't gonna do it.
Oh, it disturbs me so much. Yeah. Like, especially if it's something delicious too. You're just like, that's a great meal. And and I'm just gonna let it sit out there.
Yeah, because what's the point? You already paid money for it. It's just one of those things. Food is so funny. At one point, if you're at a certain like income bracket and comfort level, you just don't think about it anymore, right? It's like, what's a good comparison? It's kind of like just air to you, like something you can do, but you always you always take for granted. Whereas like what this chapter is really trying to show you is like, that money
you can't take it for granted.
You cannot.
You might be on the middle of an island and wish you had totally chowed away on all that food, right?
Right, and then all you can think about is the time, because food does that weird thing where when you just think about it, like when you're really hungry, you think about the times when you were watching people eat what you ate, like you reminisce about eating. It's in our brains, it's the way we are. We have to eat. Like
no, so I definitely wanted to bring that up, and now I have like a go-to example about why I have to eat all those leftovers off people's plates. I don't have to be ashamed of it anymore. I can be like, hey, read chapter 58 of One Piece and tell me that I'm not making the right decision here.
Dude, yeah, I wonder if my life did change after I read this arc, because I do remember when I watched this arc the first time, I was like, this is scary.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Over my life, I've changed. I used to be a little bit more in that income bracket that could just not care.
Yeah.
I never completely didn't care. I would still do leftover and stuff, but I wouldn't do like all this freezing nonsense. And like, I don't think I ate as much off other people's plates. And now, I don't know. I just slowly shifted into like, I think I get too excited about leftovers too. Like, we'll see.
I've learned to love it. I mean, it's not like you and I can't afford meals. Like that's not what we're trying to say.
No.
But we're at a point where we're like, I like to be efficient.
Donate to our Patreon. Food. I'm just kidding.
Right? Yeah.
So we can
please. Please, guys. Please follow our Patreon at nameofpodcast@gmail.com. I snuck it in. But yeah, it is this thing where it's like, I just like to be efficient with the food. Like I like what Sanji did, where he's like, this is what it is. essentially Sanji meal prepped, guys, in millennial terms, right? He like meal prepped for the next 2 weeks.
It's true. I didn't think about it that way. And he almost he has a moment of like almost breaking it on the first day, but he holds strong. He was like almost about to break his meal prepping procedure.
Exactly. I mean, also like give it up to our man Zeff. Just sat crisscross applesauce the whole time, dude.
Oh, it was funny that they never talked to each other. Like, it felt weird to be on an island alone and just like completely ignore your compatriot. You know, they're just like, I'm looking this way, you're looking that way. They have a very interesting relationship. You know, I think you mentioned kind of that maybe love hate, father son, however you want to think about it. Right? They are they do have a love for each other. They do share a dream, but they are gonna look opposite ways and not even know what's going on with each other for like 80 days or however long it takes for whenever Zeff finally, puts his foot off. And like the guy is dismembering himself on the other half of the island and Sanji doesn't know. Sanji just is not aware. That's just ridiculous.
Before we move on, like it would have been different if you just told Zeff, right? They might have been able to do something. On day 5, he would have just told Zeff that it was there. And like that's another thing that I think is why Sanji is so guilty here. Because he realizes that, like, day 5 maybe... Because Sanji doesn't know when... And we actually honestly don't know when Zeff ate his foot. Maybe it's day 1 or 2 or 3. But we don't know. But, like, it could also have been day 5. You know?
Yeah. Could have been well after the opportunity to flag down a ship occurred.
So, it just... It snowballed for this poor man... for this poor boy very, very quickly, I think.
Yeah. Well... We've been talking about eating limbs, we've been talking about dreams being eaten up by the sacrifice someone else made for you. I don't know if there is anything funny in this chapter. Is there any jokes? You got any jokes?
The joke here is the irony of hate. That's it. Sanji was so
very
hateful.
Deep.
So hateful.
And yeah, the irony of hate and the iron deficiency they both have after not eating food for so long. Yeah. Woo! Call that a segue. We made a joke.
I guess that only leaves one last segment that we always have to do, and Indeed. It's so violent. And we have to find our panels, put them on a rock, and then make them fight each other for the last piece of moldy bread.
Yes, as if they are both their own version of the actor, The Rock, duking it out. And then it's just they're both really close. They're both very close to being matched. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the panel battle. Well described by Eric. We can actually, jump right into it. As we mentioned before, if you have a panel you want to send in, you can reach out at not the other name that Eric just mentioned, but grandlinetourist@gmail.com.
Podcast@gmail.com.
And you can also, if you can, as Jay has been doing, you can comment on the YouTube. We'll usually see those as well, but we do like the emails, so you can send us in a picture of the panel and everything. But wherever you want to reach out, we'd love to hear from you. And that introduction all set. If I can just resize my panel. All right, go for it. Bloop. Oh, look at this. Okay, we got the revealing panel of Zeff sitting cross-legged, as you mentioned, without one of his legs, the right leg. It's gone. And little Sanji, whoomp. I think that's because Sanji fell back, landed on his bum, and he's just amazed that this is what has happened. That, and it's also, we had a picture of Sanji earlier that was similar in the way that it really shows just how much they haven't eaten. So, we got a little bit of shading, kind of making Zeff to be a little bit more in the dark, but we also can just see how thin he is. Like, all these clothes just kind of hanging off of him, and then you see that the foot's missing. You see how bony the arms are, and you're just like, wow, like this is a tough panel to look at,
I also just realized like the effectiveness of crisscross applesauce as the position to put him in, because there's no crisscrossing happen. It's just applesauce. There's nothing. It's just a good. It's good blocking.
I get what you're saying now. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. No, that's really cool.
Because like this, it just doesn't. It's so sad. Like it doesn't work out anymore, right? Like the symmetrics of it.
Yeah, well, to be honest, crisscross applesauce isn't an entirely symmetrical position because one leg is going to go on top of the other. And so this actually probably helps with his ability to hold that position because like you don't have to worry about like your leg falling asleep, cutting off the blood of the other one.
That's true. Well,
So,
I mean, because the blood's not going to the other one at all.
No, there's nothing to go to. So this is a technique I'd recommend for all young kindergartners that need to sit like this for long periods of time.
Oh, no, don't do that. Don't get trapped on the rock, kids. Don't, please.
Not with Jacob. All right, let me go ahead and get you my panel.
Yeah, hit me with it.
I always have a little bit of trouble, but there it goes, sent across the internet. It is the one all the way on the left. I believe you can see most of it. Yeah, there's a little cut off at the bottom, but it's just more of the same. The finish off the hand. So go ahead and describe what you're seeing.
Crash, and then it looks like a POV shot from Sanji's eyes. He's looking at his right hand. As compared to the ocean in the bottom, and it's fuzzy. And I think this is supposed to show that he is starting to go. His vision is starting to go because he's so hungry.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's really cool. It's a really good, like, the way that Oda. This is just he's just such a master at this stuff, at conveying a feeling or conveying a mood of a certain situation. Like you're really getting the feel of like this poor kid's dying. Is there anything else that I kind of missed about the picture that you really liked?
No, we got the crash, which actually I'm not totally sure on now. It might have been the moldy bread that he dropped in.
Did he drop it?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't mention the itinerary, and I almost snuck in to mention it. But no, he's eating his moldy bread, and he does drop it. Yeah, because let's see what it says here. My last piece of moldy bread, yada yada. And then, whoosh, splash, and then that's what. So this is like a moment of, I think, complete desperation for little Sanji here, because he was just finishing off his last piece of moldy bread, and he didn't even get to eat the whole thing because it kind of. There's one little panel that shows him.
Because he
dropping off the cliff.
Yeah, because he's like has no strength left.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think that was the reason why, but that would make a lot of sense. And yeah, when you mentioned POV, I almost want to say this. I'd love for people to write us in, and I'm probably wrong on this. Is this the first POV like panel in One Piece?
I don't
like. We don't get a lot from, like, obviously from other people's eyes. Like sometimes we have it positionally. You might be like, oh, if I was in Luffy's eyes, I think I'd be in this. Yeah, you get a lot of over the shoulder, but this literally looks like in the panel before it, we see Sanji's eye, and then we see the hand in like the position in front of the face, and then it's like emotionally taking in his state of being, like dehydrated, not dehydrated, actually, they have lots of water, but like hungry, like things are fuzzy, things are fading away for Sanji, and the art style is faded away. So I really want to say this is, like, to me, an introduction of a new technique and a new art style. I don't think we've seen anything drawn in this weird sketcherly like thing before. So I like to see that Oda is introducing something new that really works for a moment, and then considering that it plays against all the other art that he's done that's in such a consistent style, it really worked for me. So I really like that panel.
Yeah. Dude, it's cool. Cool beans, man. All right.
Cool beans that they did not have because they were starving.
Because they were starving, dude.
And wait, you know what? That phrase isn't great for eating the beans. It's good. I mean, you don't want cool beans. You want, like, warm beans.
Well, I mean, cool as in, like, they're cool looking, and that's why you eat them.
Yeah, I guess. I guess
like
beans are
eating
cool looking.
A handful of Black Eyed Peas, the band. You know what I mean? Like, they're cool. If you were in the early 2000s, I guess.
Woo! Yeah, I was there. I was around in the early 2000s. Were you? You were there too, right?
Of course I was. Where would I have been?
I don't know. I'm just joking. It's a funny idea to think. Were you there then? When?
When the Black Eyed Peas were a thing.
You know what, Eric? I have an onomatopoeia idea that that can rally and basically bookend this episode with, you know what? I am just a lowly pirate crew member, and you are Captain Richie, and you can order me around with your lion roars, because that's just what Captain Richie gets to do.
All right.
All right. I'm reporting for duty, Captain Richie. Ready? I'm really sorry. We're out of oranges. I don't have any. I know scurvy's a thing, and we've been warned about. Richie, yeah. I'm gonna throw myself overboard. I'm sorry.